US Route 19. Yeah! Alright. Hello everyone, I am Quartermon437, and today we are doing a US Route 19 Southbound Supercut. We are going to cover the entire southbound section of US 19 from Erie, Pennsylvania down to near Bradenton, Florida, where it meets up with US 41. So let's have a look at the map of the route that we're going to cover today. We are doing the whole thing, like I said, all 1,400 miles of it. So it's going to be quite a trip. And before we begin, I must remind you all that if you enjoy what you see here today, please be sure to give a like on the video, leave a comment down below if you have any feedback for me, or if you want to discuss this highlight any further. And if you really enjoyed it, please be sure to subscribe and ring the notification bell. So with all that said, let us start our massive US Route 19 southbound journey. Here we go. It's gonna be awesome. Here is the beginning of southbound US Route 19 at a junction with US Route 20, and US Route 20 gets the amazing westbound control city of Cleveland, 106 miles away, so that's really cool. And we can also see that our control city going southbound will be Meadville, which is 39 miles away, so that is also a good choice because we meet US routes. Well, we will have a concurrency with US Route 6, and then in Meadville, we will also meet US Route 322. I would also say that that is an important junction with Interstate 79 as well. However, in Pennsylvania and West Virginia, we are like parallel to Interstate 79 for quite a long time, so there are many opportunities to get over to Interstate 79, so I'm not really going to be talking about that so much in this video. Here we get a 2 Interstate 90 shield, and we can also see here as we leave US 20, we also get...
What is that? What the f*** is that?
Here we're meeting Interstate 90, and it gets the great control cities of Buffalo going eastbound and Cleveland going westbound, so just like US 20. On Interstate 90 itself, we're getting signed for Waterford and Peach Street. I don't really agree with that, honestly. I think Peach Street is just the name of the pavement that US 19 has here in the Erie area, and Waterford is a really small town, and in fact, the only reason I can really imagine that we're signed for it is because of this junction with Pennsylvania Route 97, which we are going to be concurrent with for a little bit. And Pennsylvania Route 97 leaves us at this roundabout, and we are now signed for Cambridge Springs as opposed to Meadville, so I don't really like that. Here we're meeting US Route 6, and we're going to start our concurrency with US 6 that lasts for a little bit. Now we're getting signed for Meadville once again. And here's our first mileage sign that we will see in this video, with Meadville being on the bottom line at 21 miles away. As we start to get closer to Meadville, we get this list of Meadville exits, although these aren't really proper exits. These are just kind of lists of at-grade intersections as US 6 and 19 meet all these different streets. As we get closer to the outskirts of Meadville, we get these reassurance shields of westbound US 6 and southbound US 19 to US 322. Here is another list of Meadville exits. Again, these are really just at grade intersections. When we meet up with US Route 322, it just gets signed Linden Street, which I think is not a good choice. It should say Aquarium on it because that's what we were signed for in the US 322 eastbound video as we left Meadville. That video, by the way, you can see up in the corner. I'll leave a link to that in the cards. But yeah, that's just really weird. And of course, we're going to be concurrent with westbound US 322 as well as westbound US Route 6 here. And if you want to see that concurrency, you can go check out the 322 westbound video that I made, which is also going to be listed here in the corner. Here we are really close to Interstate 79. We can see a junction Interstate 79 shield just to our left, and it gets its usual awesome control cities of Erie and Pittsburgh. And after that intersection, we get another mileage sign as well as a reassurance shield. We get Sheekleyville on the top line. And now I have to talk about an elephant in the room. Longtime viewers of Control City Freak will know that he has a beef with the Control City of Lyman being on Interstate 70, and many people in the comments of his videos have tried to figure out what's the Lyman of the East. Well, I think I have my answer. This is my big moment right here. I believe it is what gets signed on the bottom line of this mileage sign. Mercer, 22 miles away. And why do I think that Mercer is the Lyman of the East? We get Mercer, 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 Mercer! You would think that it is Chicago, the amount of roads that go to this town. It is insane. And that last one, the Interstate 80 East, getting signed for Mercer, that just killed me. Because it should be New York City the whole way in Pennsylvania. But nope, we gotta go with where all these other roads are going. And also, one reason I think that Mercer is the Lyman of the East is because the population numbers are about the same. Mercer is slightly less populous than Lyman, but it still shouldn't be signed on Interstate 80 East. All of these other roads are fine, although US 62 is a major US route, so I don't know, maybe you could still have a better control city for it than that. Speaking of US 62, as we start to get closer to Mercer, we meet with US 62 and we are concurrent with it for a little while. And in downtown Mercer, we get this amazing sign salad with all these different roads. That is just crazy to see. And after we leave Mercer, we get another mileage sign and reassurance shield with Portersville on the top line and Zelianople on the bottom line, 32 miles away. And yeah, that's fine to sign, I think. If you wanted to go to like Pittsburgh from Erie, you'd just be better off taking I-79, so it's good that US 19 gets these local control cities instead. Here we're meeting US Route 422, and it gets signed for Butler and Newcastle. I'm not really sure how I feel about that, to be honest. Although you can see the Xavier 456's thoughts on those control cities in his own US Route 19 video that he did just in Pennsylvania. You can see that up in the corner in the cards. A little bit further down the road, then we get Cranberry, 6 miles away on the top line, and Pittsburgh, 28 miles away on the bottom line. So, again, makes sense. Sign the closer places on a US route as opposed to from far away. Here we're meeting Interstate 279, although not quite directly. We get this 2 Interstate 279 shield, and it just gets Interstate 79's control cities because 279 is a pretty short 3-digit route. Here we're meeting Interstate 376, and we're going to be concurrent with it for an teeny little distance, like not even half a mile or so, I think. US 22 and US 30 are also concurrent with 376 here as well, as we get signed Carnegie and Pittsburgh International Airport. I don't know how I feel about that. Turns out those were just the controls for 376, as when we split off of 376, we just get signed Banksville Road. I don't like that. I think you should just have a proper control city. Maybe Washington, PA or something. I don't know. Here is our first exit request of this US 19 series. It is McLaughlin Road or Upper McLaughlin Road, something like that. I don't remember 100%. I don't remember 100% for sure. And this was requested by the Xavier 456. He wanted to see the exit for the St. Clair Township Library and also, I guess, the school that he used to go to. So, thank you very much for that request. And here's to hopefully some more for the rest of this US Route 19 series. Here we're meeting Pennsylvania routes 519 and 980, and we can see that now we are getting the control city of Washington, and they don't even put the pod there. Unlike on some other signs, which, yes, Todd from Control City Freak, they do that sometimes, as opposed to what you would like your viewers to believe. Here we're meeting the concurrency of Interstate 70 and 79, and we got 3 good control cities, and we also get, no comment. On Interstate 70 and 79 themselves, we again just get Mertland Avenue, and not even a real control city, although I'm not really sure what else you could put on there. Maybe Williamsburg. You know, don't sign Interstate 79 for that. Just sign it for Morgantown. Either way, though, if we look at the next exit we have coming up, which is for Pennsylvania Route 136, signed for Bow Street, we get an odd fraction, 5/8 of a mile. I believe that is the first time that has happened in one of my videos, so that's interesting. On this overhead, we see one of a quite numerous amount of the sign errors that Pennsylvania makes. We get signed as Pennsylvania Route 19, so that's not good. I just wanted to show this Papa John's here because it doesn't even really look like a normal Papa John's. It just looks like somebody opened one in the bottom of this 2-story house. So that looks really weird. Here we're meeting US Route 40, and we're going to be concurrent with US Route 40 East for a little bit. Although the next reassurance shield we see is just US 19 southbound, we don't actually get a mention of 40 right here. And then we split off from US 40 as it goes east into Maryland. At this junction off of Interstate 79, we get signed for Lone Pine and Amity, and I do not agree with those at all. I think you should just go with Waynesburg here. No need for those other places. As we can see, Amity is only 6 miles away, which I don't even think Amity is like a real town or anything. So yeah, why not just go with Waynesburg? Oh yeah, that's right, because you want to put it on Interstate 79. So stupid. As we leave Waynesburg, we meet Pennsylvania Route 21, and now we get signed for Mount Morris. Nah, I don't really know how to feel about that. I think you could probably just go Morgantown at this point. We do have a sheets here, so that's pretty cool. And welcome to West Virginia. We got a small version of their beautiful mileage signs that we see on the interstates. So that's great. Here we are crossing over the Monongahela River, coming into the Morgantown area, and I wanted to get like a view looking out onto the river, but I wasn't particularly impressed with the views. So here's just a view as we look straight ahead. I mean, I guess it's kind of nice, but not that scenic in my opinion. Here in downtown Morgantown, we see these overhead signs. We got 79 and US 19 South west over. I don't know about that. I mean, if you're going to sign an Interstate 79 control city, put Charleston on there. Although maybe Westover is for us. And we can see we are also meeting US Route 119 and West Virginia 7 here, as we also get 268 and South 119 straight ahead. As we leave the Morgantown area, we get a mileage sign with Fairmont 16 miles away. I think that's probably a decent control city for US 19, but if you're signing Interstate 79 from this point, then just go Charleston. In Fairmont, we meet US Route 250. And on this next mileage sign, we get Clarksburg on the top line, Weston in the middle, and Buckhannon is our primary at 35 miles away. Here we're meeting US Route 50. It gets signed westbound for Parkersburg and eastbound for Bridgeport, I think that is. I'm not 100% sure. It's a little hard to read that. Here in Weston, we are meeting US Routes 33 and US 119 once again. And on this mileage sign, we get Sutton as our bottom line, 41 miles away. I think that might be a good choice. Here we're meeting Interstate 79 once again, and this time we're actually going to be concurrent with it for a little while, as we get signed for Charleston, good, and Clarksburg, bad. Should be Pittsburgh or Morgantown, definitely not Clarksburg. As we get onto Interstate 79, our concurrency with it, we can see that we get Charleston, 69 miles away, as I-79's primary, although it's listed on the second line. And our primary is going to be Beckley at 81 miles away. I think that's a pretty good choice for US 19. I kind of hesitated when I was gathering the pictures. I thought maybe it might not be a great control city, but then I realized that Beckley is about the same population as Johnstown, and I like signing US 219 for Johnstown. At least the northbound video. I'll leave a card too. You can watch that video. It's one of my favorite videos I've done so far. Anyway, here at exit 57 on Interstate 79, we are finally going to say goodbye to it once and for all. US 19 diverges away from Interstate 79, and we will not see it again until we go back northbound in parts 3 and 4 of this series, as we get an overhead for Beckley. So, again, good choice. Although, after we leave our concurrency with Interstate 79, we actually get Somersville also added onto this sign, so that's interesting. And we can see that Somersville will be our secondary at 28 miles away. We are still 71 miles away from Beckley, again on the bottom line here as well. Here is another mileage sign a little bit further down the road where Beckley is still our primary at 46 miles away. We're meeting US Route 60 here, and it is named the Midland Trail, as it gets some, I'd say, probably pretty questionable cities listed, but I'm not entirely sure what exactly you would put on US 60 here. I'm not really familiar with where it goes. Here we're crossing over the New River on this massive bridge. I actually got vertigo when I was looking on Google Street View getting this picture. This bridge is 876 feet above the river. That is insanely tall. And the scenery here is just fantastic. Holy mackerel. But yeah, if you're driving this in person, don't look down. Like I said, even just looking at it on Street View, this is crazy. At this point, again, we go through some pretty beautiful scenery in West Virginia. I wanted to get a view looking out from US 19, but you couldn't see much of anything, so I got off onto West Virginia 16 here in this town of like 8,000 people, I think. I forget the name. Speaking of West Virginia 16, we are going to have an exit for it and also West Virginia 61 coming up. Also a left exit. And we are meeting Interstate 64 and 77, the West Virginia Turnpike, in 1 3/4 of a mile. Although US 19 actually doesn't intersect it, we get off right here with West Virginia 16, and we get signed for Bradley and North Beckley. Although when we get to the bottom of the ramp, we get just Beckley and Bradley, not North Beckley. Here in Beckley, we split off from West Virginia 16, and then we go under Interstate 64 on this massive bridge that it goes over. As we meet West Virginia Route 3, our next control city is going to be Princeton. And here we meet Interstate 77 again. It gets signed for Bluefield and Beckley. I think you could probably have better choices for 77. Todd from Control City Freak definitely talked about it a a lot, I think. So I would recommend going to check out his Interstate 77 videos. At least the northbound one, I will leave a card for up in the top right corner. And if we look on Interstate 77 itself, we just get signed for Camp Creek. I don't like that. Where did Princeton go? Although at this intersection, Princeton comes back, so that's good. We're meeting with US Route 460 for the first of 2 times, actually, and it gets signed east for Harrisburg? I'm not really sure how you pronounce that. And now we are signed for Bluefield. I think that's a good choice for US 19. Although Bluefield is actually our top line here at 8 miles away. And then we get Tazewell, Virginia on the bottom line at 31 miles away. I'm not really sure how I feel about that, honestly. Here we are leaving US Route 460 as we continue to get signed for Bluefield. And in Bluefield, we meet US Route 52, and we are going to be concurrent with northbound US 52. We get signed north and south in West Virginia. And at this intersection, we can also see trains! Yay! I love trains. Woohoo! Anyway, here is US 52 splitting off from us as we now get signed for Bluefield, Virginia, because Bluefield is one of those towns where it spans over the state line. And also, if you want to go to Minot, North Dakota, here's your turn to get off for that. As US 52 leaves us, it goes over this big bridge. So this is pretty cool. I just wanted to show this Dairy Queen here as we leave, as we start to get closer to Virginia, because it looks like the signs and stuff, the infrastructure, it's all still basically like the same it always was. It looks like it hasn't changed in however many years this Dairy Queen's been here. And I had to get this picture of this Norfolk Southern coal train because, again, I love trains. Thought this would be a cool picture to have in the video. Welcome to Virginia. And at our first reassurance field for US 19 in Virginia, we actually also get west US 460, which is actually not supposed to be there, I believe. I'm almost certain we are not actually concurrent with US 460 here, so I don't know why that's there at all. Here we go under some more train tracks as these diverge southwest away from the Bluefield area. Pretty cool. Here we're meeting US Route 460 again for our second time, as we now get signed South 19 West 460 Tazewell. Here we're actually meeting a business route for both US 19 and 460, so that's pretty interesting. And as we go past the town of Tazewell, we actually get onto a full freeway for a little bit, and we get some numbered exits, which I think is really weird. I don't know why it doesn't just say exit here. And there are 5 of these exits total. Here we're meeting Virginia Route 16, and technically this is exit 2, but it doesn't say that anywhere. Instead, we get car line underscore. What is that? I have no idea what the heck they're doing here. Just have the Virginia 16 sign. And also, why not have an exit 2 somewhere on there? This is really weird. Here we're meeting the southern end of that business route. And on our next mileage sign, we also get reassurance shields for southbound US 19 and westbound 460. As we get this mileage sign for Richlands, Grundy, and Bristol. I believe Grundy is actually where US 460 goes. 19 goes to Bristol. Here is US 460 splitting off from us once more, as we say goodbye to it for good this time. And then here we get another mileage sign with Lebanon on the top line, Abingdon in the middle, and Bristol is still our bottom line at 57 miles away. We come to Lebanon and we meet another business route for US 19 at this intersection. As we go by the town of Lebanon, we get some more numbered exits, although there were only 2 of them this time. This is the first of those exits. And here we are meeting the other end of that US 19 business route, as we also meet secondary Virginia Route 660. We get another mileage sign with Hansonville on the top line, and once again we get Abingdon and Bristol as our second and third lines respectively. We meet alternate US Route 52, and we are going to be concurrent with eastbound alternate US 58 for a little bit. Here is where that alternate route splits off. And actually, we just miss having a 3-way US route concurrency as we meet US Route 11 here, and we're going to be concurrent with southbound US Route 90. And we're going to be concurrent with southbound US Route 11 for a little while. This is off of an exit from Interstate 81, and this is where it leads to. US 11 and 19 are parallel with Interstate 81 at this point for a little bit. And at this intersection on our pavement, we can see 2 Interstate 81, which is also concurrent with US 58, as we get a whole bunch of signs in both green, white, all sorts of craziness going on here. At our next reassurance shield, we actually don't get a US 19 indicator. We only get US 11, so that's really weird. We meet directly with Interstate 81 and US 58, and that concurrency gets signed for Knoxville. Although, if we look on the freeway itself, we just get signed for Lee Highway, so again, just another name, not an actual proper control city, so that's weird. We're meeting the Virginia 381 feeder to Interstate 381 here. And if we look on that route, we can see another just insane sign salad. There is a lot of shields here, holy mackerel. Continuing on from that intersection, US 11 has split into E and W. We are concurrent with US 11E at this point, as well as US 421 and a couple of truck routes for 11 and 19 northbound. We cross over into Tennessee, Bristol being another town that is on a state line, and we get this really, really pathetic green entering Tennessee sign. We don't get the regular Tennessee welcome sign, so that's really lame. But at least we're in a state that has some awesome control cities now. I'll be very, very intrigued to see what all they do in Tennessee on US 19. As we leave the urban areas of Bristol, we see the Bristol Motor Speedway, which is one of our first major roadside attractions we've really had in general. I can't think of something else as famous as this that we have passed by before. We meet Tennessee routes 394 and 390 as they get signed for Bluff City and Blountville. I think that's how you say that. And off of this exit, US 11E and 19 are now signed south for Johnson City, so I think that's a good choice. We are crossing over the Holston River on the Charlie Worley Bridge right here, so that's pretty cool. And now we have reached our own E and W split. US 11 and 19 are 2 of 9 US highways that split into an E and W or N and S sections. So that is really interesting. We will be following US 19W on our southbound trip as we go to Johnson City, while US 19E gets signed south for Elizabethton. Along the way, I didn't think there was much of interest to show you, so I'm going to skip to Johnson City where we meet up with Interstate 26 and also US Route 23. We're going to have a concurrency with those routes as we now get signed for Asheville. So that's pretty good. Tennessee showing off their good Control City signage at this point. But once we get onto Interstate 26, we get this mileage sign, which only has one line on it, and the city listed is Irwin, 13 miles away. What the heck? Where did Asheville go? Why is there not 2 lines with Asheville on the bottom line? I thought you were better than this, Tennessee. What's going on here? Why did Asheville disappear? Put it on there. This is really stupid. So here in Irwin, we look off of our basically one exit in Irwin, and we can see that Asheville now comes back as being our control city. So I don't know, why couldn't you just have Asheville being control city that whole time? Why sign Irwin at all? Now we're leaving Interstate 26 as we get this sign for Temple Hill Road. And now we're not even getting any place or town or anything at all, just this name of a road. So again, what's going on here? This is really stupid once again. Although we get off the ramp and we come to this intersection where we get signed to Tennessee Route 352 and we get Flag Pond. What is that? Also, on our right turn here, we can see that the 2 Tennessee 352, the one that gets signed with an arrow, that has fallen off, so they gotta fix that. Here, as we meet Tennessee Route 352, we can see that it is getting signed for Flag Pond and not us, as it also gets signed for Asheville. I guess it meets back up with Interstate 26 somewhere, as we also see that bridge for Interstate 26. That looks pretty cool. But we are getting signed for Burnsville, and I think that's a good choice because that's where we meet back up with US Route 19E to form just regular US 19 once again. As we get off of that turn, we can see at this reassurance shield we're also getting a warning to trucks that there are switchbacks on US 19W, and they should consider an alternate route. And as we go along US 19W here in Eastern Tennessee, it's pretty boring, honestly. There isn't really a whole lot other than just endless lines of trees. Although at the beginning of this year, Google did drive through here in the Street View car, and they got this imagery where there aren't any leaves on the trees and we can just see everything around us. But I don't know, I still think it's kind of a boring road to go on. And here we are entering into North Carolina. Oh boy, warning, warning. Terrible control cities inbound. Warning, warning. Oh no, what is North Carolina going to do? Here we meet back up with US 19E, and once again we will just be on southbound regular US 19, and we don't get any control cities here, although that's probably a good thing, because if we did, they would probably be pretty bad, so I'm glad we don't get anything. Here we're meeting up with Interstate 26 once again, and we get signed for Asheville, which should absolutely be there, and nothing else along the way. And the other direction is getting signed for Irwin and Johnson City. Wait, these are actually pretty good choices. Okay, North Carolina, you have caught me pleasantly off guard here at your first sign with control cities on it. So, good job there, I guess. Although, let's see how you do the rest of our time here. Well, how about this? We're meeting up with US routes 25 and 70 here, and we still get signed for Asheville. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. We don't get anything else like Weaverville along the way, which they could have very easily signed at that last sign I just showed you. So, okay. Here are our reassurance shields for this wide concurrency of 19, 23, 25, and 70. That's pretty cool. We are meeting and going to be concurrent with westbound Interstate 240 as US 70 is splitting off to go join eastbound Interstate 240, and we can already see that US 25 left us earlier. So we also get West Asheville on this line. I don't know how I feel about that. Could just have something else on there, but I don't know. I'm actually not 100% sure on that, honestly. We leave Interstate 240 as it gets signed to Interstate 40, and we just get no control cities at all here, so I'm getting a bit worried here. Is North Carolina starting to revert to its old tricks now? Got a bad feeling. Although, after we leave Interstate 240, we get this Little Caesars and Cookout right next to each other, and this is pretty cool. I had Cookout one time a few years ago when I went down to South Carolina, and it's pretty good. I really enjoyed that. So this right here, this would probably be like one of my dream places to eat. Be able to get a burger or a delicious cheap Little Caesars pizza. Here we are meeting Interstate 40, and we don't get a control city for eastbound 40 here. But on westbound we get Canton. That is like the next town west of here. If anything, you should be signing 19 and 23 for that. Oh, no. Alright, North Carolina, you've left me with no choice. I have to do this. And if we look on Interstate 40 itself, we can see that now we are going to be signed for Anka and Cantor? What? Those are also just like suburbs of Asheville. Why not just put Canton on that and sign 40 west for Knoxville? Oh. Yeah, North Carolina, once again, you have failed me. You baited me with that first sign that we saw, and you took me right in with your terrible signage. I'm so disappointed. Here in Candler, now we are getting signed for Canton, which I feel like you should have just done all along, once again. Although 19 and 23 going the other way are now signed for Asheville, so... alright. We're meeting US 74 here, and I couldn't find any mileage signs until this intersection. So I say now we are signed West 74, South 1923 Cherokee here, so I guess that makes sense. This is in Clyde, North Carolina. US 23 and 74 leave us as we now get signed for Maggie Valley and Cherokee. Alright. We are meeting US 276 here, and we're going to have a brief concurrency with it. Once again, still signed for Maggie Valley and Cherokee. And this is where US 276 leaves us, as it gets signed to Interstate 40, and it gets Knoxville? Knoxville? Really? Wow, that's a great choice, North Carolina. Holy mackerel. Okay, you've somewhat made up for the bad choices that you made in Asheville. That's pretty cool to see, although why didn't you just sign 40 for that in Asheville? But I like signing 276 for Knoxville. That's pretty cool. Here is a request from the Derp Hog. He wanted to see where US 19 meets the Blue Ridge Parkway in North Carolina. So here is that. Thank you so much for your request. And just past that entrance to the Blue Ridge Parkway, we get some pretty beautiful scenery here in North Carolina. So I like that. This is really cool. Right here, going through these mountains. In Cherokee, we are meeting, we're meeting US Route 441 all the way up here in western North Carolina. Holy crap. Long road up from Florida. And we haven't seen any mileage signs in a hot minute. Now we are getting Bryson City on the first line, 10 miles away. We get Murphy as our second line. There are actually 3 lines on this mileage sign, and the last one is Chattanooga? We're getting signed for Chattanooga? 150 miles away in North Carolina? US 19 doesn't go to Chattanooga, but other routes that we're going to meet up with on 19 do. So, I really like that choice. That's great. North Carolina can't seem to make up its mind here on 19 whether it wants to have its usual terrible signage or if it wants to have some of the best signage I've seen in all these videos so far. Okay. Alright. And we have a brief concurrency with US 441 that only lasts like a quarter of a mile or something. It's very, very short. But we leave US 441 and then we get the same thing on this mount sign. So, yeah. I approve of that. That is fantastic. I'm having an existential crisis looking at these signs in North Carolina. We meet up with US Route 74 and are going to be concurrent with it once again, although this one is a pretty beefy concurrency. And this time we are also assigned to North Carolina 28 as we get Franklin and Murphy. So those are pretty good choices, I'd say. Here we're meeting North Carolina Route 28 and we get assigned Robbinsville, Andrews, and Fontana. So where did Murphy go? And then here is where North Carolina 28 splits off. It is the one going to Robbinsville and Fontana. And now we are getting signed once again for Murphy and also Andrews here on US 19 and 74. So good that Murphy is back on. We're meeting up with US 129 here and also going to start a concurrency with it, as it also gets signed for Robbinsville and Fontana, so pretty interesting there. And now Murphy goes away once again. We're just getting Andrews, so I don't really like that. I think we just have Murphy, although once again North Carolina is being really weird with alternating between the good signage and the not as good signage. Although at our next reassurance deals, we don't even get US 129, we just get South 19 and West 74, so. And I couldn't find any mileage signs in between where we meet up with US 129 and Andrews. We just get Andrews here for this business US 19. And we don't get any more mileage signs after this. So I had to look here at this junction with North Carolina 141 to find what our westbound, southbound control city for 19 and 74 is going to be. We still get Murphy once again, or rather it comes back, so alright. Now, after all of this build up, here we are meeting US 64 in Murphy, and it gets signed east for Hazel. I feel about that. And Murphy is at our right turn here. If we look on US 64, straight ahead is Murphy. 1974 and 129 are all assigned for Andrews going the other way. And all of these routes now get signed for Chattanooga. So once again, North Carolina knocks it out of the park after a few strikeouts, and I don't know what they're doing here in North Carolina. Sometimes it sucks, and then we get amazing signage like this. And after that intersection, we get this quad concurrency reassured shield with US 19, 64, 129, and 74. And now we are going to say goodbye to US 64 and 74 as US 19 and 129 split off to go to Blairsville. I'm not really sure how I feel about that. Although on our next mileage sign, as we also get these reassurance shields for 19 and 129, we get Atlanta? We're getting Atlanta 126 miles away? What? Oh my goodness gracious. North Carolina once again knocks it out of the park. So this right here, I believe I have to give them a rare North Carolina W trophy, because goodness gracious, like between Chattanooga and Atlanta, the out-of-state control city signage, and for quite far away, it has been absolutely amazing. Yeah, we've had some stinkers here, but I'm going to be honest, these signs have actually outweighed the bad, so I don't know if this is indicative of North Carolina's signage on other U.S. highways, but if it is, then why can't they do this on the interstates? Stuff like this. because this is fantastic and amazing and just... Wow, I'm completely blown away. Holy mackerel, North Carolina, you have absolutely blown me away with some of these choices you've made. We come into Georgia, and this is pretty interesting. This gas station is right on the state line, so we got a Georgia state line sign right here, and then past the gas station, then we get the Welcome to Georgia sign, so that's interesting. And on our first mileage line in Georgia, we start off pretty bad here. We got Blairsville 9 miles away on our top line, and Cleveland is our bottom line at 42 miles away, and Cleveland is on US 129, which will be splitting off from us, and it's really, really small. So, I don't know, Georgia. This is not a good look for you starting off. I'm not getting some great first impressions here. So here in Blairsville, we're meeting up with US 76, and we're going to have a very brief concurrency with it, as we are also concurrent with Georgia Highway 11. So I don't know when Georgia 11 came in, maybe right at the border. And now we are getting signed for Cleveland and Hiawassee, which also I think Hiawassee is on US 76, so why is that on here? Then we get these interesting overhead reassurance shields. I think Georgia likes to do this a lot. They put signs on power lines. It's kind of cool, actually. But then we also see this mileage sign where we got Young Harris 9 miles away on the top line, and Hiawassee is on our bottom line at 16 miles away. We don't get anything for 19 or 129. Why? Why? Ugh. This is terrible. Right off the bat, we already have some awful mileage signs. And then when we split off from US 76, Georgia makes 2 mistakes right here. Like, 2 just legit mistakes. Like, not even talking about the control cities. We get Georgia 129 instead of US 129. There is no mention of US 19 at all, and they mess up the shield for US 129. And also, just to add insult to injury, we get pretty terrible control cities. Although they do have a 19 reassurance shield here, and 129 gets signed properly, so that's good, I suppose, although I still disagree with the control city so far. And then on our next mileage sign, Cleveland is still our bottom line at 25 miles away, so terrible. In the middle of nowhere, US 129 splits off from us as it gets signed for Cleveland, and we get signed for 2 places that I'm not even going to try to pronounce. We get another mileage sign with Dawsonville on the bottom line, 26 miles away, and do you want to know where Dawsonville is? It's on Georgia Route 9! It's not a place that we go to. So why are you signing it on this route? Georgia, I have so many questions. Your mileage signs and control city signs in general has just absolutely sucked so far. And we've barely been in the state. We meet up with Georgia Route 9. It goes straight ahead along with Georgia Route 52. And we are going to be concurrent with Georgia Route 60 here as we get signed for Gainesville, because that's where Georgia Route 60 is going, as opposed to, I don't know, Atlanta for US 19, which I think you should be prioritizing over these minuscule state routes. Eventually, we split off from Georgia Route 60, and for the first time, we got a mileage sign that actually feels like they're signing for US 19 as we get... 21 miles away on our top line, and we get Atlanta finally on the board once again at 59 miles away as our bottom line. So, about time, Georgia. Here is our main exit for that town. It is Georgia Route 20, so let's see what they do after this for our control cities. We get this mileage sign with Interstate 285 on the bottom line at 23 miles away, and you know what? I like that, honestly. I think you could have that there and it works fine because, I mean, it's the Atlanta Beltway. There's all sorts of places you can get to from the Beltway. So, you know what? That's not terrible, although it doesn't really make up for all the other terrible signs we've seen so far. I skipped ahead down to the Beltway, and Interstate 285 is getting signed for Chattanooga and Greenville. I'm not really sure about Greenville, but I do like Chattanooga. And also, technically, the whole time we've been on US 19, or at least from some random intersection, I don't remember where, I don't really care. We were also concurrent with Georgia Route 400, and in fact, between that town we were just in and Atlanta, there actually is no signage for US 19 at all. It's all Georgia 400, which is really weird, but now we're going to be splitting off from that and joining Interstate 285. Here is a look in the middle of the US 19 Interstate 285 interchange. There's a lot of ramps and stuff going on here, and frankly, I couldn't really tell exactly where US 19 exits itself to get onto 285. Although, again, I just thought this looked really cool right here. We split off from the Beltway, and now we are getting signed 19 South Roswell Road in Sandy Springs. Not sure how I feel about that, honestly. I'd probably just say downtown Atlanta. I don't know. Here's a look as we go over the Beltway, so this is pretty cool. We're passing over Interstate 85 here, and we don't get any access to it, although that's probably because right here we also have the Atlanta Amtrak station, so yay, trains! Here we are meeting and going to be becoming concurrent with US Route 41 as we get south, US 19, US 41, and we also meet Georgia Route 3 here, which I believe we are actually going to be concurrent with for the rest of our whole time in Georgia, so pretty long concurrency there. The Dirtpog also had another request to see in this spurt of US 19. It was for the Georgia Tech campus, which is a bit of a ways away from US 19, although I think this is a decent view of some of the buildings that you can see on the campus. So I guess it's actually not that far away, but the majority of the campus is located distance away from US 19. Either way, I want to thank the Dirtpog for both of the requests that he made, and again, thank you for being such a good friend. Moving on, here we are going to be becoming concurrent with two more US routes, 78 and one of its child routes, 278, which, fun fact, is actually quite longer than its parent, so that is pretty interesting. And now also factoring the obligatory state routes that are also concurrent with these, there is a total of 6 highways on this concurrency, on this pavement, although it lasts very brief, but still, this absolutely blew my mind when I was getting pictures for it. Here is where 78 and 278 split off, and US 29 is also joining our concurrency here, so we have 3 pretty big north and southbound US routes. Well, this place has been pretty busy over the fall, hasn't it? Between the Peach Bowl, the SEC Championship, and a whole bunch of Falcons games. This place is called Mercedes-Benz Stadium, but it doesn't look like a football field to me. It looks like a friggin' Sydney Opera House wannabe. What is this design? Just past the stadium, we get these reassurance shields for our concurrency of 29, 19, 41, and Georgia 3. And only a few blocks up the road, 29 is splitting off, as we are now just left with US 19 and 41 once again. We pass under Interstate 85, and we don't get access to southbound Interstate 85, we only get access to northbound, so that's a little disappointing. Although we do meet Interstate 75, and we get full access to it, so pretty cool. And we're meeting the Atlanta Beltway, Interstate 285 once again, as we get full access to it this time. And also, behind those trees over there are some more railroad tracks, so pretty cool. We meet Interstate 75 once again, and if we look on Interstate 75 itself, we can see that it gets signed for Macon, which, I mean, you could have worse choices for that, I suppose. And we are now getting signed for Griffin and Jonesboro, so I suppose those are alright too. We get this sign for Georgia 362, and it is coming up in 2/3 of a mile. I have never seen an exit getting signed for this particular distance away. Have any of you seen this particular distance, 2/3 of a mile? Have you ever seen any of that before getting signed? Let me know down in the comments. This is really weird, I think. If we look off of that exit, we can see that now we're getting signed southbound for Barnesville, which, that's where US 41 is going. It is going to split off from us during a bit, but I'm not sure if that's what I would want to see signed here, because US 19 goes to a place that is a little bit bigger than it, but is also slightly farther away, so I feel like you could have a city for both 19 and 41 here, but I mean, I guess Barnesville isn't terrible. So here is where we split off from US 41, and now we are getting signed for Zebulon and Thomaston. I looked, and I think you could probably just have Thomaston on that sign, not really any need for Zebulon. And once again, US 41 is the one going to Barnesville. Although, on our next mileage sign that we can see, Thomaston is our top line at 16 miles away, and we get Americas at 81 miles away, and Americas is quite a lot bigger than Thomaston, so I don't know why you wouldn't put that on the sign instead of Thomaston. But again, we've seen a lot of really dumb decisions by Georgia, so maybe it checks out. Here we're meeting US Route 80, and we're going to have a concurrency with that route, starting from this intersection. And on the next mileage sign, we can see that Americas is now our top line at 52 miles away, while we get Columbus on the bottom line at 58 miles away, Columbus, Georgia. So that's a really good control for 80, because it's quite a big city in Georgia. And then here in Americas, we meet US Route 280, and we're going to have another brief concurrency with that. Excuse me, can someone tell me how I ended up in New York? Albany is 38 miles away, but I thought New York was 1,000 miles north of here. So how am I seeing signs for Albany? Wow, that is actually referring to Albany, Georgia, which is actually also a pretty big city. And we meet US 82 here in Albany and join it for concurrency. We go around Albany, Georgia. And if we look at this interchange, we can see that we are now getting signed for Thomasville. Interesting, another place with Thomas in the name. US 82 splits off, and it gets signed for Sylvester and Tifton. I think those are probably fine, especially Tifton because it meets up with Interstate 75 there, so yeah, alright, go with that I suppose. We get another mileage sign, and Thomasville is 54 miles away, so pretty far away, and Thomasville is not even that big, but I also agree with it. We meet a few US routes there, and I mean, it's not like it's tiny or anything. So we have a junction with US routes 319 and US 84, and on this sign, US 84 isn't even mentioned. We just get 19 signed for Thomasville and 319 for Moultrie and Tallahassee. That is pretty cool to see. Tallahassee on that sign for 319. And to be honest, I'm not really that much upset about 84 being left off the sign because they did the same thing with 19 a few times. It seemed like they didn't care about 19, so a bit of equilibrium there. But Georgia goose up again. US 84 joins us for another concurrency, and they list it as being Georgia Route 84, not US 84. I swear, these states so far have been all over the place. They make some good signs, they make flubs like this, and then there's just outright bad control city choices sometimes. This has been a pretty crazy video so far. And then on the next mileage sign, Thomasville is still on there, even though we're basically in Thomasville right now. We get Quitman at 29 miles away in the middle, and we get Monticello, Florida at 23 miles away on the bottom line. And I really don't think Quitman should be on there. I believe that is for US 84, and that should say Valdosta. So I do not agree with that. Here is where US 319 goes to Moultrie, and Thomasville is signed the other way, and we get Monticello once again. Here is where US 84 leaves our concurrency, and it does at least get Valdosta this time. So that's good, although I would probably get rid of those second and third lines. I couldn't find any mileage signs in between Thomasville and the Florida state line, so here is the Florida welcome sign. And I don't think having Ron DeSantis as your governor is something to be proud of. I don't want to get too much into politics, but I don't believe they should be having his name on a sign because let's just leave it as he is not a good person. We come into Monticello, I'm not entirely sure how you pronounce that, but either way, we're meeting US 90 at this roundabout, and the Jefferson County Courthouse is actually literally the centerpiece of this roundabout, so that's pretty interesting. And US 90 gets signed westbound for Tallahassee. And at our own exit from this roundabout, we get to Interstate 10. And when we meet Interstate 10, it gets signed for Tallahassee going westbound, and the atrocious choice of Lake City going eastbound because, you know, Jacksonville doesn't have 900,000 people or however many. Either way, way more than Lake City. It isn't super important or anything, so let's just sign Lake City instead. If we look on Interstate 10, we can see that we are now being signed for Perry, so I guess that could be a good choice. Although, if we look at our next mileage sign that we have, I think the first one that I could even find in Florida, we also get this weird looking reassurance shield for US 19. And there are actually 3 lines on this mileage sign, with Perry being on the second one. And St. Petersburg is now our bottom line at 230 miles away. Oh my goodness gracious. I thought I might have almost been done with getting the pictures at this point, but we still have a long way to go. Florida, always bigger than you think. We meet US 27, and we were going to have a brief concurrency with it. And if we look at this intersection, we can see that we are still getting signed for St. Petersburg on direction signs. And then the next mileage sign also still has St. Petersburg on the bottom line at 226 miles away. We gotta start just getting on down. Here in Perry, US 27 leaves us, and we also join US 98 for a pretty long concurrency. And we can also see at this intersection that South 221 you can access by making a left turn, although frankly I don't know why you would want to do that, because 221 actually has another intersection with us in a little bit, and it ends there, so I don't know why you wouldn't just stay on 19 and 98. So here are our reassurance shields for US 19 and 98, as we also join South alternate US 27 as regular US 27 splits off. And then we get this mileage sign. St. Petersburg is now 192 miles away, with Chiefland being our secondary at 64 miles away. And I skipped all the way down to Chiefland, where we actually meet the southern end of our good old friend US 129, as we also get Alt South 27 straight ahead. But then it splits off to go to Ocala, and we also get signed for St. Petersburg once again on this overhead. Alt US 27 also gets the sign for Bronson and Williston. I think just Ocala is fine enough. I don't know why you have those other places. We got another mileage sign. This time it's only 2 lines. Inglis is our secondary at 37 miles away, and St. Petersburg still 130 miles away on the bottom line. Wow. So here is where US 98 splits off. It is 2 toll Florida 598 as it gets signed for Brooksville, which I don't really like that, to be honest. I think you could just sign 98 for Lakeland. I would like if Florida did that. Although, if we make a right turn, we get signed for Chesahowitzka. That is a pretty crazy town name, and I think that's pretty cool. But yeah, once again, I think you should just do Lakeland for the left turn to get onto 98. I think that would be the best choice. Whatever the case, I think that the next mileage sign that we see after leaving that intersection is really bad. We get Weeki Wachi, 14 miles away on the top line, Spring Hill, 16 miles away on the second line, which US 19 doesn't even actually go to, and then we get Hudson, 27 miles away on the bottom line. Where did St. Petersburg go? Or Tampa? You could put Tampa on there. Truthfully, actually, I'm not 100% sure how this mileage sign should be done. But, like, no. Hudson should absolutely not be the bottom line, only 27 miles away, when we were signing St. Petersburg for 230 miles. That's ridiculous. Although on this mileage sign in Hudson, we do get St. Petersburg once again, and we are now only 46 miles away from it. We're meeting Southbound Alt US 19 here, and actually, I'm going to take this route this time. I want to show you guys some stuff on Alt 19 because there's really not much of interest left on US 19 until we get to St. Petersburg. So we get this mileage sign, only one line for Clearwater, 4 miles away, which I guess it's alright because it's not the main route for US 19, and Clearwater is a pretty big city, although I feel like you could still sign St. Petersburg, because what if US 19 gets closed or something and you have to take this route as a detour? At this point, we are pretty close to the edge of the Florida Peninsula. The Gulf of Mexico is mere miles away at this point, and the only thing separating us is these islands that we can see out in the distance, along with this pretty cool looking bridge. We move on down to Largo, and here we're meeting Florida Route 686, signed east for Tampa. That's pretty cool. And then we get a big overhead sign for alternate 19 South for Seminole. I guess they're just signing the next town at all of these. Like I said, I would kind of just prefer to still see St. Petersburg on these, but maybe I guess I can understand signing just the next town over for an alt route. And we also get a sign for beaches, so if you want to go to the beach, make a right turn. Here at 70th Avenue, we get one more one-line mileage sign for St. Petersburg. Now we're only 8 miles away from it. So we are starting to get to the beginning of the end for US 19 overall. And on US 19 Alt, we are starting to turn back towards the regular 19 route as we go over this bridge. And it's kind of interesting. I had to point this out. On this bridge, we get a sign that says no fishing between signs. And if we look straight ahead at the road, we can see that there are a ton of these signs on the bridge. And I have to wonder, so if I walk up just like a few feet ahead of the sign, like if I walk outside of the area, can I still fish? Or do they just not want people to fish on this bridge in general? Why wouldn't they tell you that? Anyway, after all of the hype, we are finally coming into St. Petersburg itself. We get this St. Petersburg city limits sign. And I actually couldn't find this on the alternate route, so I had to get back over onto regular US 19, although there isn't much of it left at the point that both of the routes are parallel to each other when they go into the city. So here we are joining back up with the regular US 19, and we're still not quite at the end of the road yet. US 41 is still a little bit further down the road, and that's where the road will end. I think I said it ends in St. Petersburg in the part 1 video, but I also said it ends at US 41 earlier in this video. But either way, now we're getting signed for Bradenton, and that is where we will meet up with US 41, and this road will end. Bradenton's also a pretty big city by itself. St. Petersburg is 4 times as big of it, but I mean 50,000 people, that's still more than enough for a US route. And then we go down a little more and we get this one-line mileage sign with just Bradenton on it. I mean, I'd kind of like to see more stuff on there, but if you're going to go with just one, yeah, Bradenton is fine, I suppose. We're merging in with Interstate 275 here, and we get another really, really beautiful look out at all this water to our west. Once again, we are pretty close to the Gulf of Mexico at this point. And on Interstate 275, we get this rest area just before we're about to cross over Tampa Bay. So that's pretty cool, I guess. And here we are crossing over Tampa Bay on this massive cable bridge. So, really awesome to see. Interestingly, after we go over that bridge, we get another rest area. So, that's a little weird. I don't know why they have two rest areas so close to each other. But I guess it's great if you really, really, really have to pee, or if you want a snack or something and miss the other one. And now we are splitting off of Interstate 275, and we now get signed for Palmetto and Bradenton. So I don't know if you really need Palmetto on there. I think Bradenton is just fine. And finally, at long last, after nearly 1,400 miles of southbound US 19, we come to the junction of US 41, and we get this and US 19 sign. So, woohoo! We have made it to the end of southbound US 19. And with that, we will now move on to quarter launch 437s the way it should be for all of southbound US 19. And buckle up, it's going to be a long one, so get ready. I'm just going to kind of blow through this. I'm not really going to give explanations for all of these because, once again, we have a lot of towns to get through. If you want reasons for any of this, feel free to ask down in the comments. So, here we go. The way it should be for US 19 southbound is Meadville, Mercer, Zelienople, then Pittsburgh, Washington, Pennsylvania. Yes, put the paw on there, of course, to differentiate it from Washington, D.C. Waynesburg, Morgantown, Fairmont, Clarksburg, Weston, Oak Hill, Beckley, Princeton, Bluefield, Tazewell, Abingdon, Bristol, Johnson City, Asheville, Canton, Cherokee, Bryson City, Andrews, Murphy, Atlanta, Griffin, Thomaston, Americus, Albany, Thomasville, and then I'd say Tallahassee because US 19 itself doesn't go to Tallahassee, but it meets with a ton of options to go to Tallahassee, and also it's Florida's capital, so of course I would want it signed. And then after Tallahassee I would go Perry, and then St. Petersburg, and finally Bradenton, because that's where 41 will go when US 19 meets up with US 41. So, with all of that out of the way, thank you all so much for watching this video of southbound US 19. And now I want to talk about what I have planned after this video, what's going to be happening for the foreseeable future on this series of road videos. So the next video that I will do will be US 220 alternate and business here in Pennsylvania. Then after that I will do the finale of the whole US 19 series with Northbound Part 2, and then I will be doing a Northbound supercut of that as soon as that is done. Then after that I have a whole bunch more plans after the US 19 series, but I will get into those in future videos. So for now, thank you all so much for watching this US 19 Southbound Supercut, and until the next video, everyone, I will see you all then. Have a good one.